All right, so like I said, I think it would be a really great idea if you finish your color step scales and your color wheel today. If you don't finish them today, in order to stay on track, I would just plan to stay after class. I have all of my templates that I made, and I'm going to leave probably this one for you guys if you want to use it as reference. But if you want to use that, I will leave that one here. So one thing about the templates, as I set them up, I also wrote down where each color was going to go. I think that's a really good idea for the color wheel. That way I'm not like guessing what comes next. And then also for my color step scales, I've already planned out which colors I want to use and things like that. So that's something I recommend as you are setting yours up. I also want to talk about an easier way than I think some of you might have been doing to set up something like this for a template. So can someone hand me a ruler? I just want to show you how I set this up. So when I was going to set up my color step scales, I lined this piece of paper up on my cutting mat, and then I also lined each of the inches marks that I needed to make up with the cutting mat as well. And then I just made one line, continued it through, made another line, made another line, made another line. So that way I could make sure that everything was straight and in the right spot. If you're trying to do something like this and you're like making each step scale like individually, that's how they come out wonky, right? So if I just work on this one and then I get all the lines and everything like that, and then I move to the next one, that's how they come out looking different from each other. So if I work on them all sort of simultaneously and line everything up with the cutting mat, that's how I keep them looking similar. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. And then also, when it comes to our color wheel, all I did to set this up was I found the center. So I also lined this up on my cutting mat. So I said, okay, this is 8 inches wide. Here's the center this way. This is 8 inches wide. Here's the center this way. And then when I set that up, I looked at the template that I put on our presentation, and then I saw within each quarter, there are 3 steps, right? And then if you measure it out, you'll see what I was talking about, how they're each like a little over 2 inches, right? So in each quarter, there's like 3 slices, right? You can get as anal about this as you want to be. So like if you want to make it look extremely perfect and beautiful, be my guest. But this I think is good enough, right? Also, we're using acrylic paint, which for the most part is pretty opaque, except for yellow usually. So we can just paint right over all of our pencil marks. You'll have to do multiple layers, but you have to do that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, let's talk about how to care for our things, and then also how to use them. So in your kit, if you got the kit or if you bought things separately, you should have like an array of different brushes. These are just the ones that are from the room. So they're not the nicest quality brushes. It might not have come with one that's big like this, but we have a ton of these, so it's fine. But you probably have some like smaller and medium-sized brushes, right? You might also have gotten a palette knife. I think that was in your kit, right? Great, we have palette knives too. If you don't have those, we have them here. The brushes that are in the kit are not like the highest quality brushes, so I would sort of like baby them. The more you take care of them, the longer they'll last. One thing that you don't want to do is this, and just leave your brush in there for hours and hours and hours as you're working, and then pull it out at the end of class. That is because the metal that sort of like is holding this together, either if it's plastic or wood, will slowly loosen the glue, and then it'll come apart, and then you don't have a brush anymore. I used to teach summer camp with kids, and that was like the thing that the children were the most guilty of, and all of our brushes would just like pull apart. So from experience, don't leave your brushes in the water. When you finish with a brush, I recommend you grab some paper towels from over there, and you just wipe the water or the paint off right? So that way it's nice and clean. Don't let paint sit on there. If it does, there is a way that we can fix it. You actually, if it dries on there, you can hit it with a hammer and it will go back to somewhat normal. I do that with my brushes, but do as I say, not as I do. The better you take care of your brushes, the better state they'll be in by the end of the semester, and then you can keep using them. You don't need any like really nice brush cleaners. If you want to be like a fancy painter after this class, they make nice brush cleaners, and you can baby your brushes after every time you use them, and you can condition them and like I'm not kidding, like you can do all these crazy things with your brushes. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can just rinse them out in the sink with water. I like to like rub them against my hand to just sort of get any like crusties of the paint off of them. If they're really dirty, you can use some dish soap. You can also use dish soap as you're finishing cleaning them to reshape them. If you use the brush a lot, you can, like they might get a little misshapen and like the hairs will get out of place. You can take, after you wash them, like the tiniest little dab of dish soap and just sort of reshape them, and it'll get all the hairs back in the same spot. But they're pretty simple to clean as long as you don't wait hours to clean them after you use them. The next thing that should have been in your kit is some sort of like container for your paint that closes and that will keep your paints nice and wet. Because these are acrylic paints, they don't reactivate with water, so you want to keep them wet. You can use a covered palette like this, or you can use our Jello shot containers that we have. Either works fine. If you're going to use this, what I recommend you do when there's paint in there, you get a wet paper towel, obviously smaller than this, and put it in there. The wet paper towel will keep it wet and keep it from drying out. You can leave these on the shelves back there, so if you're sort of like worried about transporting wet paint, you can leave them back there, okay? Next thing about supplies, we have painter's tape, which people have mixed success with sometimes. If you want to use painter's tape as you're working on these, you can. I've found that sometimes it will like lift pieces of paper off, or it might lift parts of the paint off that you don't want. I think a good rule of thumb is to lift the tape off when your paint is like almost dry. And acrylic paint dries really quick, so you have to like keep a good eye on it. If you wait until it's dry, sometimes it like bleeds under the tape and you get sort of mixed results, or it lifts off pieces of your paper. My suggestion is to hold off on using painter's tape until you get to your big project and use it in like very targeted areas. If you want to, you don't have to use it at all. But I think these are so small, I don't think you need painter's tape here, okay? All right, and then last thing for supplies, we have palette paper over here. So it comes in these things here. There's some over there, and then if we run out, we have more, like a ton over there. The palette paper is really nice because if you load your palette up with paint, you can, you know, if you're really careful about it, you can cut it off and then put it into your covered palette, so that way you can hold on to any colors that you mixed. Or if you mix too much, you can, with your palette knife, sort of scoop whatever you need off and put it into your covered palette, right? So the palette paper is really nice. You probably still want to use it even if you have your covered palette with you, just so you can keep things sort of clean. The palette paper is also reusable, so if you use palette paper today or any other class and it gets covered in paint, just let it dry and then you can continue to use it. That's a trick so we don't blow through this like super quickly. Remember that you can reuse the palette paper. Don't leave globs of paint on it. The more globby it is, the longer it'll take to dry. Okay, and then cleanup. So at the end of the semester, I'm going to make us on the last day or the second to last day, clean all of these desks. So to save you time, from cleaning. You should clean as you go. This is the cleaner that we have over by the sink. I found that it does a really great job at cleaning up paint specifically. If it dries crusty on the table, if you spray this on it and let it sit for a little bit, you can then scrape it off with some scrapers that we have back there. If it's wet, you can quickly get it off the table with a paper towel and then spray it with this, and then it'll get any of the other residue off. If you use the Simple Green, I found that it doesn't stain the tables, like the paint doesn't stain the tables. So if you end up getting a little bit of paint on the tables, the Simple Green will get it out pretty easily. Also, as we're painting, we are going to move our cutting mats. So the moment that paint comes into the equation, we're just gonna like stack them all on a table and not get paint on them. I know some of them have paint on them already, like this one, but I don't want to make it worse. These are not palettes. We shouldn't be painting on them. I don't know why we have paint on them. Okay, I think those are all of our supplies things. I also have a spray bottle of water. It's usually back there, but I'm just gonna bring it up here. This can be nice to sort of like mist your paints to keep them wet, because again, acrylics dry really quick. Don't spray too much, especially if you're spraying like your paper. It will run and ruin your whatever you're working on, unless that's what you want in your final project. Okay, so I'm gonna use the palette paper, and I'm gonna follow my own advice and move this cutting out of here. I will start with the color wheel. I won't work on the whole color wheel, but I'll get a couple of these done. And then I'll probably do the monochromatic, and then I'll let you guys work today. So I'll start with red, why not? So for these paints, the most pigmented paint is gonna be the red paint. The least pigmented paint is gonna be the yellow paint. All that means is that the red paint you'll find probably goes on in 1 or 2 layers pretty easily. The yellow paint is usually more translucent, and you'll have to do like maybe 4 layers of paint. So be patient. I know acrylic paint dries quick, but be patient. So I'm gonna start with red. So I can just use this right out of the tube. I don't have to do any mixing here. Okay. When I go to apply paint, I want to apply it using thin brush strokes. So I want to take all of this paint that I just loaded up on my brush and apply it very thinly. Sometimes it can be, it's okay if I get it on the desk. That is easy to clean up. Sometimes it can feel sort of like, oh, I'm just gonna like really layer it on there and just let it dry, because acrylic paint dries quick. That's how you get unwanted texture. So you want to avoid that. I want to paint in nice thin brush strokes. I like using a flat brush like this for this, because I can use it on its side. And I can also use it like this. So I haven't loaded it up with paint again. This is still all paint that was on that same brush. It's okay if it like leaches out into the next step, because that next one's gonna be red-orange, so I'll have a little bit of red in it anyway. Okay, I have a nice thin layer. I definitely need to do another one. I think it's a good idea to clean as you go. So if I can get this up with my paper towel, I can. Maybe I'll hit it with a little bit of water. Will that help? There we go. Now I don't have to worry about it at the end. I don't have to worry about getting crusty. Maybe I'll wave this around a little bit, encourage it to dry, so I can do my next layer. It's a little tacky. So if I work in nice thin layers, the other benefit of that is that it dries really quick. So I'm not sitting there having to wait for each layer to dry. It dries in seconds. And in just 2 coats, I've gotten this pretty opaque. Like I said, I want to avoid unwanted texture, so I want to spread all this paint around. I'm paying close attention to the texture that I see the paint is leaving behind. All that texture that I see will actually dry that way, so I want to be pretty. All right, there we go. Second layer looks pretty good. Clean as I go. I think it's good practice that even if you clean as you go, to wipe your table down with the simple green before you leave, because it will leave some sort of residue. I can leave this brush with a little bit of red on it because we're gonna make red orange now. To make orange, I need to add yellow because we're sort of working our way to yellow. So I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow over here. And probably might need all of this yellow. I'm gonna just start mixing this in here using my palette knife, and I want to get to red orange. The yellow is pretty pigmented. So I don't want to get to orange, I want to get to that step that's between red and orange. It still feels a little red. I think that's pretty close. Where did I put the color wheel?
I'm gonna say, how do you know when you get close to?
Well, you'll know by pulling out a color wheel, but that's pretty good. Let's see.
Because I'm for close.
We'll pass around this color wheel. But look at that. That's pretty darn close. Maybe needs a little bit more red. So I'll pick up a little bit of red. Red is super pigmented, so I'm gonna be pretty careful with it.
Like I know eventually you'll get to the point where like you can just like know exactly, you just never worry about it.
Yeah, but that's why we're making this color wheel, so you can reference it as you're working.
Yeah. I'm saying in practice you actually know what exact colors it is, so you don't have to worry about like guessing.
Yeah. And there we go, red orange. Something to also keep in mind is that the acrylic paints dry darker than they look. So as I'm working on this, I might sort of put down my layer of red orange that I just mixed up, and I might let it dry all the way and then decide if that's correct or if I should add some more yellow back in. Let's put our red orange down. I can already see it's like way more translucent because I added yellow to it. That first layer is way more translucent this time. So you can see that difference of adding yellow into the paint. And you might want to like save the colors you mix because again, after it dries, you might feel a little different about it. You might want to do another layer. Like I'm looking at this red as it's drying and I can see my pencil marks through it. I'm like, maybe it needs another layer.
So you don't want to see those marks?
Nope. It should be nice and clean. But I only noticed that now that it's been drying for a minute. Spreading this out very thinly. I can already feel it starting to dry on me. Okay, let this dry, clean as I go. Okay. Sometimes people, when they're painting with acrylic, they will break out a hairdryer, and I just don't understand why. It dries so quickly if you paint thinly. So unless you're like working with like impasto or something like that, you don't have any reason to use a hairdryer. This definitely need like probably like a third and a fourth layer. But I'm gonna move forward because I don't want to eat up all your time because I already know we're sort of pressed for time. But I'd probably do a third or fourth layer on the red orange and then definitely another layer on the red. I'm gonna clean my brush as I go, and now we're gonna bring it to orange. So I like to have the colors I'm working with on my palette. So I'm working my way to yellow. So I'm gonna work my way to yellow on my palette as well. Clean this off. Okay. So I'm gonna bring back my palette knife, add a bit of yellow to my red, orange. And if you work your way to it, that's a pretty easy way to get right to the color you're sort of looking for. And we're already at orange, right? Just by adding a little bit of yellow. Okay. So I'll dip in there, grab my orange, and it should sort of look like a nice gradual transition. Your step scales and your color wheel shouldn't feel like big jarring jumps from color to color. It should feel like, okay, now I'm going from red to red orange to orange to yellow orange. Like it should feel nice and gradual. And again, the more I mix yellow into it, the less opaque it becomes and the more layers it'll need. So this one probably needs 3 or 4 layers. This one will probably need maybe 4 or 5 really thin layers of paint. I'm not gonna make you sit through and watch me put 5 layers of paint on my paper, but I'll do another one here. Yeah, we don't need to watch paint dry. I think we understand how to mix the color though. Now we're gonna work our way to yellow orange, right? But if you were working on yours, I think it'd be wiser to build up the paint rather than speed ahead. Okay. Clean my brush as I go. Now I'm gonna work to yellow orange, which means I'm probably gonna add the rest of this yellow here. So we're working our way to yellow. This might be a little harder to work too, because again, that yellow is so transparent and that red is so pigmented. Yeah, definitely needs to get more yellow. More yellow, still too orange. And if I end up like using too much paint, I can put it into the Jello shot containers, or I can scoop it into my covered palette. You'll keep using these, so it's not like the end of the world. Just don't let it dry up and toss it. That is a waste of money. There we go. We're at yellow orange. We made it. Okay. Put this off to the side. I'm just gonna build this up. Again, working in nice thin brush strokes. And then our next one will be yellow, so I can use that right out of the tube, just like I did with the red. So it's a really good idea, like I said, to work one color at a time because they all feed into each other anyway. So I think that's the easiest way to go about this. And then as they dry, they'll look different when they dry. So if you want to make an adjustment to this, you can. Like I'm looking at this dry and I'm like, oh, the yellow is more potent than I thought it was. So I might add some more orange back into there because that's looking a little too yellow for me. Just making your color wheel make sense. Everyone feels good about that? Okay. I'm not going to fuss on this for the whole class, but let's talk about the color step scales as well. So I'm going to clean my brush off. Like I said, I'm gonna do the monochromatic one, and then I'm gonna let you guys work. So the monochromatic I chose was orange. Perfect. I already have orange on my palette. Love to see it. This is also a good opportunity to just like show you how I scoop that paint that I'm not going to use into my palette here. So might as well. So I'm not going to use any of this. I'm going to just mix this all together. Why not? If you want to be more specific about it, you can. But I'm just going to bring this all in together. I'm not going to use it anyway. I don't think this is the same one that y'all have, but it's the same idea. Yeah, I don't need a giant one like that. I'm not going to use this whole side of the palette. So like I said, this paper is reusable as long as you don't leave giant clumps of paint on it. So if I scoop it all off into my palette like this, all of these areas can dry and then I can use this again. So the palette paper that you get, if you want to use palette paper, I would just keep it as yours and just scoop the paint off as you go. You can spritz it with water just like that and cover it and it will stay wet. You can also add a wet paper towel. If you're going to be gone for like a couple days, it's a good idea to keep it wet over a couple days. Like that'd be a good idea if you're going to leave it here over the weekend. Put a wet paper towel in there as well. Okay, so I have my orange. I wanted to, I'm gonna need more orange than that. So maybe I'll get, you know what? I already have it in my palette. I'll build orange back up with these and not waste paint. Take a little scoop of both. This might be a little red orange. I'll need a fair amount of this, so I don't mind sort of mixing maybe a little bit more than I need. Maybe some more yellow. All right, let's consult the wheel. Are we at orange? Yes, we are at orange. Okay, so I'm gonna put you away. We've got orange. So monochromatic again means that we're just mixing white and black into our color. So I have my orange here. I like to start with just laying down the colors that are just gonna like go straight on there. So I'm gonna lay down the orange and I'm gonna lay down the white and the black, right? Just because it's white doesn't mean that you're not gonna paint it. I want you to literally paint the paper white. Sometimes students don't do that and they're like, why does my white square look so different from my other ones? Well, it's because you didn't paint it. The other thing about these step scales is that it's like hard to find a perfect middle. So as long as you get as close as you can, I'm okay with that. So this orange isn't like in the exact middle, but it's okay. We're all gonna survive. So I'm gonna do nice thin brush strokes. I like using a brush for something like this that is like about the same width or as close to it as I can with the box, right? So this is a 1-inch box, so I'm using a brush that's like almost 1 inch. If you try and do this with a little teeny tiny brush, you might be successful, but it's also gonna like take you all day. Right, so I've got my orange. Clean off everything here because I want to get my white and my black on there as well. I think visually it just sort of like helps me see that I'm working from white to orange to black as I'm going. That way I sort of have a reference. And those are supposed to be like my pure colors, so they shouldn't have anything mixed into them anyway. So if I just get them on my paper then I don't have to worry about something accidentally mixing into them as I'm working. So when I use white especially, I want to make sure that everything's as clean as it can get, because that will definitely show up. Okay. Do a little test stroke. Does any orange show up? No, yay. Okay. All right, so like I said, even though this is a white square, I am literally going to paint it white. You have a question?
Whitewashing is the same.
Right. I want to cover up that pencil marks anyway. You know what? This will show how good the simple green works too. It'll be like an advertisement for simple green. All right, we've got our white. And we're gonna grab our black. Clean as you go. Look over here. Black is also really potent. Still a little bit of white on here. Okay. This one I might only need like one layer because it's so potent.
So when I watered it down to get like a good texture,
Mm-hmm.
when I put water on it, it looked kind of blue.
Yeah.
So is the
So all blacks have a little bit of blue in them. That is true. I was going to talk about this. You read my mind. So that is where I was going next. So I wanted to do the monochromatic one, specifically because of that. So when we are making a monochromatic palette, we're actually making tints and shades. So when we are adding white, we're tinting our color with white. When we're adding black to our color, we're shading our color with black. When you want to make a color darker, it is a little bit of a faux pas to add black to it, right? In some cases, you might want to, you know, if it's your artistic preference. But the actual better way to make it a little darker is to add its complement. So if I wanted to make this orange darker, a better way to do that would be to add a bit of blue to it, and maybe like a little twinge, like a little droplet of black, right? But a lot of people like just add black to everything, and then they're like, why is everything like turning blue, right? Yes, that's correct. You read my mind. You got there before I did. Okay, so I have my black, I have my orange, I have my white. I already have orange on here and a little bit of white from when I definitely didn't have to scoop up some white off the table. So I might as well move from orange to white. So I'm going to mix my orange into my white. There isn't like a color wheel for you to reference for this, so you're gonna have to do it a little bit by feel, right? So if I were to put that color down next to that, that's gonna be like a really jarring jump. That's not gonna be what we want. So I'm going to add a bit of orange into it so it's not super jarring. It should look like a nice gradual transition. I might need more orange. That white is really potent. That's probably like the color I want right there. Ooh, way more, wow. That white is super potent. There we go. A little closer. So just like I did with the red going into orange, I like to work on my palette like gradually transitioning. So I would do the same with all of your other color schemes as well. So that way you can just sort of like pull from it as you're going. So like if I was doing my red green one, I'd have red over here and green over here, and I just sort of like mix into them. That's a lot closer to what I wanted. Okay. There we go. And I think it's a good idea for these, because again, there is no color wheel for you to reference, to mix up maybe a little bit more. Because like right now I have my next color transition as well, because I already mixed that up. And again, I'm being hyper aware that I need to work in more coats than one. So this would not be my final coat here. But I'm doing this for time's sake. We're gonna add a bit more white. And we'll get to that last one over here. Maybe a little bit more. Just a little teeny. Okay. So I have my gradual transition over here, so that way if I want to pull from this and add another layer somewhere, I can. Okay. And if I don't like the way color dries, because it will dry differently, I can go in and adjust and do another layer that looks the way I want it to. I'm going to work on the other side of the step scale. I'm gonna clean my brush, clean my palette knife, get all that white off of there. And, ooh, I just realized I'm out of orange. Go back to my wet palette. Give me some orange back. This has white in it, so I can't use that. It has to be pure orange mixed into black. Be very careful because red is so potent. It's so potent, I just used a little dollop. And it's already red orange instead of orange. Can I get a little bit more? Just because you brought it up earlier, Julia, I haven't added any water to this paint. I don't want to water it down right now. When we start working on our final project, I'll show you a different way to apply paint in washes with water. But we're not going to do that right now. We want to keep everything opaque. The more you water things down, the more layers you're going to have to add anyway. So just keep it nice thin layers. Let's see. We add orange. And then if you do your color wheel first, you can just consult the color wheel that you made. Now I need to get from orange to black, which black is also very concentrated. So I want to be careful as I mix those together. Look at the tiniest little dollop. It's so concentrated. made a really nice, like, almost brown. It's because it's got that blue in there. That's a good sort of like middle. I need some more orange. Get it closer to the orange. We want it to be gradual shifts, not giant jarring shifts. And that's a little better. Maybe a little bit more orange. Delightful color.
It's like mud.
Yep. We made mud. All right. So that black has like really drastically altered that orange, just a little bit of it. So a problem that students can run into here is if I had added too much black initially, like you saw how much black I added, like the teeniest little drop, I'd suddenly end up with like a pile of paint like this big, right? So I think less is more when you're trying to mix colors. Like I'm even like a little hesitant to add that much. Like that's a little scary. Especially with colors like black, white, red, like they, oh gosh, that's so much. They're so pigmented. You have to be like ultra careful. Because you don't need a giant glob of this. Like I know we can put it back into our palette, but you don't need like a gigantical glob. I don't want you to accidentally sort of like burn through all of your paint this summer and have to get more. So add a little bit at a time, especially when you're using red, black, or white. Add a little bit more. Tease. Trying to build up that gradual transition.
So red, it was turns to brown.
Yeah, and it's like more green now too. Like little tiny drops of black are making it this much darker every step, you know? Again, I'm doing really thin strokes and if I was going to keep working on this, I would add more layers of paint. But just so I'm not demoing for 3 hours, I am going to leave them fairly thin, but you and your project will not do that. And this should be like almost black, so maybe I'll be a little less scared to add some more black to this. Okay. Yep, there we go. And then if I were to do probably 3 more layers, this would look perfect. Right. Now imagine this more opaque. So it shouldn't feel like nice gradual transitions. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this probably needs to get a little lighter. So I would probably make this a little lighter, add a little bit more white to it, do another layer of paint on it. The nice thing about working really thin is if I decide, hey, I don't like this and I want it to be lighter, it's really easy to just make it a little lighter. If this was really thick and globby, it'd be really hard, and also it probably wouldn't be dry yet. Like I applied the paint here on the white a little thicker than I did everywhere else, and it is taking longer to dry, right? Couple other things. So I want to talk more about paint mixing and about complements as well. So right now I have orange with black mixed into it and orange with white mixed into it. If we combine these, which you can in your final painting, but not here. So like, let's take this that has orange with white in it. mix those. We'll now have a tone of orange, which is a tone of a color is when you add gray to a color, right? So it's a technical term, right? Notice how it makes like a very grayish orange, right? So if you're trying to make like a really neutral gray or really neutral brown, right? There's a great way to make a neutral brown. You add a tone, you add gray to your color. I also want to talk about when you make your complements, because you're going to do a complementary color scheme at the bottom here. Let's, just so I don't have to mix another orange, I'm going to add a little bit of blue here. When you go to mix, do I have enough orange? Maybe I'll use a little bit of orange with a little bit of white on it. When you go to build your complement, sometimes students get a little scared because the complement in the middle will turn. Let's grab some more orange. The blue is super pigmented. It's got white in it. Give me some orange. It should turn like a brown, but Leanne was lazy and didn't mix a proper orange. But when those, like an orange and a brown or an orange and a blue collide, right, it'll turn into a brown. Your complement should make a brown in the center. That means you're doing it correctly, okay? So if you're doing red and green, it should make brown in the center. If you're doing blue and orange, it should make brown in the center. Mine didn't come out that way because Leanne is lazy and she added a orange with white in it. Does making your color step scales and your color wheels make sense? Okay, let's talk about cleanup. So I'm not super like beholden to keeping all these colors really pure. So I'm just gonna sort of grab a bunch of these, mix them together, and add them to my thing. Why not? That's really pretty. You're going in my palette. So again, we don't want to leave globs on here. Thin things like that, we can let dry on there and we can reuse this palette. If it's all globby, then I cannot. And if you clean your palette off really well, you can just leave it back there on the shelves. For time's sake, I'm not gonna fuss over what that looks like. I can put this off to the side. And I've made a mess. It's time to clean it up. I'm gonna get a new paper towel. One for cleaning my brushes, and one for cleaning the table. So when I finish cleaning up, we're also gonna pay close attention to cleanup time as we're working on these paintings, because it takes longer to clean up as we're working on these projects. Like I said with the brushes, you can just wash them off in water. Like if you have a cup of water, we have cups over there by the sink. As long as you get all the paint chunks off of it and it wipes clean, then you're good to go. You can get as anal as you want to about this. If you want to buy a brush cleaner, be my guest. That is up to you, but I think that water will serve your brushes just fine. I'm gonna move all of this out of the way. I'm gonna clean my palette knife as well. I can just clean that off with paper towel. If it's really dirty, I can take it to the sink and wash it back there. We don't want to put globs of paint down the sink. That sink is meant to for people that are painting, but I don't want you to put globs of paint down there because that means that someone has to come clean the trap out, and that's annoying. So don't put globs. I'm gonna move everything out of the way because I don't want to get simple green on anything. clean that after. So I like to, when I'm cleaning with Simple Green, maybe put a little too much, let it sit there for a moment, let it do its thing, and then I'll come in and wipe it off. So if you get something on the table, it is not the end of the world. Simple Green is really good at getting paint off. I think it smells good, some people don't. But it's really good for painters. Just cleans everything up really, really quick. It does smell like NyQuil, you're right. I'll never think of it the same way again. And now we're clean, right? So no matter what, if you think that your table is clean and you're like, I was the cleanest painter in the world, I still want you to do this. One, it'll make cleaning at the end of the semester easier. Because you saw that like it lifted stuff off that like I didn't even know it could lift off. Like I thought most of that was dry over here. And you might have like left a glob of white paint that you couldn't see because it blended into the table. Or we've been working with a bunch of different materials this semester. Like I noticed as I was cleaning, there was a glob of graphite over here and it cleaned that up, right? So you don't want that glob of graphite on your work, so might as well clean up. Any questions about anything I've gone over? Everyone feels pretty good? Okay. Since you asked that question, I'm gonna talk about that really quick. So, technically you can tone your paper any color that you want. I recommend that you use a color that is gonna be in the majority of your painting, right? So we decided that most of your painting is gonna be orangey. So we're gonna tone it orangey. So we've got this really nice orange mixed up. I have a cup of water, not like a lot of water, like just a little bit, I would say. And we're just gonna scoop that into the water. And we're gonna mix all that in together because we wanna kind of dilute this paint. And we're going to do anything messy like this over here because this table is covered in plastic. So we can pretty easily clean it up after. Just grab a paper towel or whatever. And then if it, if it gets stained, it's just plastic. So we can just buy another thing of plastic. You're using a color with like a lot of red in it, so it's gonna be super pigmented. So you don't need like a whole bunch of paint. If we were like toning our paper yellow, you might need like a little bit more because it's less pigmented, but like you can see the water is like already, I haven't even mixed it fully yet. And the water is really already turned pretty orangey. It doesn't have to be like exactly what you want. You're gonna paint on top of it anyway. The whole purpose that this is gonna serve is just gonna be to make it so you're not fighting against the white of the paper. You might have noticed as you're working right now that you're having to do multiple layers because like the white of your paper is like sort of showing through your paint, right? This resolves that, so that way instead of white of the paper showing, it'll be this like orangey wash. We have these big sort of like gnarly brushes, and this one's got glue in it. Let's get another one. If you want to use one here. So over there we have brushes that we have, but if you have your own, you can bring your own. Any of those like big brushes over there are good. We also do in the fall and spring, like we have, you guys make journals. So that has glue in it, and I'm pretty sure that's from a student making a journal and not washing the glue out. So you don't want it to feel like that. You want it to feel like this. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna get my brush nice and soaked, and then I'll spread it around. If you want it more concentrated than this, you could put another layer on. I don't recommend soaking your paper with water because again, the more water that's on your paper, the longer it's going to take to dry. So I'm really trying to spread everything out and not add too much water, because otherwise you're gonna spend a lot of time waiting to paint. Some people, when they tone their paper or their canvas, they like to sort of get like an underdrawing or an underpainting in. So if you wanted to at this phase, you could, right? So you're doing like a tiger. So if you wanted to, you could let this dry a little bit and then go back in and get like a little gesture of a tiger. Just like food for thought. You could also get texture in right now. So I'm not gonna do this because it's yours, but if you wanted to, you could get like some little droplets of the watered down paint or something like that. You have extra, so if you wanted to, or if anyone else wants to tone their paper orange, we have a lot of extra. But this is good enough. If you wanted it more saturated, you could do another layer. One last note. So you can get your image using pencil before or after this step. It's entirely up to you. If you do it before, what's nice about that is the paint will like seal your drawing in, so you don't have to worry about it lifting or anything like that. But it will also smear your drawing a little bit, like it'll interact weird with the graphite. But some people like that effect. You know, it's up to you. If like the smearing and the obscuring is like too daunting, you can do it after this step. So after it's fully dry, you can transfer your image on. Right. I wanted to talk about different paint applications so that way you guys felt more confident like approaching your paint. So I put down 3 different types. I'm gonna do these again just so you can see, but I did these before purposefully so that way they can get a little drier, and I'll show you what it looks like when you layer those applications on with another color too. Let me turn down my music before I get myself distracted. Right now I have one that is painted really thinly with water. I have thin brush strokes, and then I have like really gloopy, thick application of paint. So I'm gonna do another just thin, watered down application, just so we can see what that looks like. I had a paper towel and I lost it. Let me get another one. I'm specifically wiping off what I just brushed because I don't want to get water into my next one. This is a serious matter, guys. Oh, my mouth is so dry. So I'm wiping off the water that was on my brush. That way it doesn't get into my thin application of paint that shouldn't have any water in it. So if I'm going to apply it thinly, I like to spread all the paint around so I don't have any mountains and ridges of paint. So it's a nice thin application. That will dry really quick, really nice. The impasto, the really gloopy paint, will not. That will take a lot longer to dry, and all those like texture buildup that you see will dry that way. So if you want texture, like if you want to build this up like a little bit more sculpturally, like all these sort of ridges that I'm getting by layering paint on here, that will stay, right? So I'm sort of purposefully adding extra paint, and all those mountains and ridges would stay. Right, so if I sit here and let that dry, which I will, that will stay there. I also want to talk about, if we apply with a smaller brush, some ways that people apply paint with smaller brushes. So you're working on 18 by 24. If you're using a little brush like this or even smaller, it should only be like for fine lines, or if you are going to apply paint in a more sort of impressionist way, where they'll do some sort of like quick succession strokes like this, you get some texture when you do this, right? And that's sort of the purpose, right? So like you're going in there purposefully to get texture if you're going to be working like that. This should be dry enough now. Let's see what these look like. I'm going to get all the red off of my brush here when we layer another color on there. So I chose blue so you could see, you know, how close it gets to purple, because blue and red make violet or purple. We'll water this down a little bit more. So we're gonna layer this here. Right, so if you build on top of the wash that you have now, you'll get that sort of effect, right? So if you keep building washes of thin layers, watered down paint, that's the kind of effect you'll get from that. And then let's go in and do a nice thin layer on top of this one. Right, it's harder to see between the brush strokes now, so there's less mixing sort of happening. And I don't know how dry that one is, so I'm gonna give that last one there a little bit more time to dry. But I also wanna talk about wet on wet application. So let's go back in and dip over here to red. So I'm going to still apply this pretty thin, but I'm gonna work quick and pick some blue back up. And you'll sort of like mix on your paper when you do this, right? So that's called a wet on wet application of paint, right? And it makes a totally different, right, approach than if we were to let it dry. I'm not sure how dry that is. It still looks very shiny. I might come back and give that like 5 minutes, because honestly, the thicker it is, the longer it's gonna need to dry. And then I'll add blue on there. But I hope this like sort of helped people with applying paint and like seeing how things are gonna mix together. So if you don't want it to mix on your paper, it's a very good idea to let it dry between layers. The thinner you apply it, so like if you know that you're gonna put another layer on top, apply it really thinly, because otherwise you're gonna be waiting like 5 minutes between layers. If you're trying to build up texture, sometimes it's good to, in like your last layer or your second to last layer, to start building up texture. If you build it up from the start, you're gonna be waiting like hours for it to happen. You know what I mean? And if you want to layer on your paper and sort of build up the color that you want, you probably wanna water down some of your paint. You can, if you want to like save your watered down colors, or if you want to do it in a more controlled way, you could do those in the Jello shot containers and just add some water. You might want to experiment with how much water you add and how much it dilutes the color as well. Any questions? I don't know if that's good. Okay, when that dries, I'll put some blue on top of it. So before I mix any other colors or talk about why I have these colors on my palette, we're gonna talk about undertones in people's skin. So I like using myself as an example because I think I'm really obvious. So I'm gonna just like put my wrist out here. I'm red. I'm Scottish Irish, I'm extremely red. You can tell by looking usually at the inner part of someone's forearm. Like Danny, if you put your arm here, you're more of an orange, right? Mm-hmm. You see like the difference in red to orange, right? So when you go to paint someone, you're gonna look for that person's undertone. If someone's a little tanner, usually they'll have like some orange in them. If someone has a darker skin tone, they'll usually have like cooler tones like blues and purples, but sometimes they'll also have oranges in them as well. So I've mixed together the main colors that are in most people's skin tones. So I have the orange, I have red, and then I have violet, right? So we have our warm tones and then we have our cooler tones, right? So these are like the main skin tones that are in most individuals, but like it's a case-by-case basis. So I have a violet here. You might, like if you start doing this more often and you get more specific, you might look at a model or you might look at yourself and you're like, I'm more of a blue violet than like a true violet, right? But essentially you want to find their color opposite. So I have orange, color opposite is blue, complementary color. Red, color opposite is green. Violet, color opposite is yellow. When you mix them together, you'll get like a skin tone color. So we'll start with the orange and blue. I probably need to add a little bit more orange in there. So you'll get that like brown that we talked about when you mix complementaries. And I'm gonna mix those browns so you can see the difference in warmth between them. And some people might have like all of these in them. So when you're painting someone, you might want like all of those different browns on your palette. Especially if like light is hitting them differently. Like one shadow on someone might appear warmer, or one shadow on some, like if you have a blue light on me, one of my shadows might appear cooler, right? So I might not look so red anymore. So we have a brown. Let's make another brown with our red and green. So this will be a significantly warmer brown. Maybe a little bit more green. Trying to get to like that true sort of neutral between the two, right? So I've made brown, but they're two very obviously different browns. Okay. And now we'll mix the yellow and the violet. I definitely need some more violet in there. Definitely give me some more violet. So you've reached a totally different brown, right? So even though they all make brown, they're totally different browns. These tones themselves can be someone's skin tone. Like that can be someone's like neutral shade without like a light or a shadow hitting it. But to, like for instance, that red and green, that's how I would start my skin tone. But I'm not just red and green. I definitely have a lot of white in my skin tone. So if I were to try and reach something that's more like mine, I'm gonna just pull this over here. I'm not only red and green. I know because I've worked with my own skin tone. I also have a bit of yellow in me, so I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to this, just like the tiniest little bit. And then I also need to definitely add some white. So I'm gonna tint. So that little bit of yellow and that little bit of white brought it to something that's a little closer to mine. Maybe it's a little too yellow, but that's definitely a lot closer to mine.
Would you think a little more pink or no?
Yeah, I could add some red to it to sort of like neutralize the yellow a little bit, make it a little less potent. Or if I want a little bit more of a subtle effect with skin, I'm not gonna like fuss and make it exactly my skin tone. I'm just showing you how to edit it. So like if I'm trying to maybe get a less, like that might be a really good highlight for my skin. So if I'm working with like a highlight, I can so as a tint, I can shade my tone. So I can go in with a gray, and that will give a different effect as well. Might add a little bit too much gray. I don't know, maybe we're good. Brand new at my skin tone. Maybe a little bit of yellow. And that might be like, or like a really good shadow. Or like that area between a shadow and a highlight, you know? Just like right between there. And then if I want to get this darker, let's say it's like my skin tone in the dark, I could add some black, but remember, adding a lot of black is a dangerous game. So I'm gonna add like the little teeniest little bit, and
And then
maybe
what if
add
you
some red and
wanted
green back.
To make it more colorful in a sense, right? So instead of doing black, you did the violet or blue.
A violet or a blue, yeah, you could, yep. So like I said, I'm just thinking about it like it's my skin tone.
Right.
But like, if I go in there and add that brown that we made there, that's gonna shift it cooler. You see how it got cooler suddenly?
Right.
So if I wanted to get like a cooler shadow on my skin, that might sort of bring, and I can even add some blue to it.
Yeah.
So if I want it even cooler, like if it's in a deep dark spot, like that might be like a really good shadow for my skin if it's like in a deep dark area. So I mixed a bit of black in there, a little bit of violet, and a little bit of that violet yellow mixture and that blue. So like, even though my skin is mostly red and green, I still pulled from like the other color spectrums to get like this range, right? Does this make sense in sort of like color mixing?
I think so.
Once you get a, like if you're gonna work, because I know that you're working with skin tones.
Yeah.
Once you like find your skin tone, what I recommend you do is you get that container and you just like fill it up with your skin tone. So that way you're not, like I would like really like fill it up. So that way you're not trying to mix your skin again, because once you get it perfect, sometimes it can be hard to get it again.
Right.
And then also keep in mind with all of these that when they dry a step darker. So this might, I know this isn't, but let's say it is. This might be perfect now and like, oh, this is a perfect highlight. But when it dries, it might be more like dimmer. So to keep that in mind as well. So always like, if you're making a skin tone, test it, let it fully dry, and then see how you feel about it.
Gotcha.
Feel good? Okay. Oh, also, one other thing. Can I borrow someone's iPhone? I just want to talk a little bit more about undertones, your camera.
Oh.
So, I need you to unlock it too, so I can edit the photo when I'm done. So, sometimes when I talk about undertones, some students are actually colorblind, or some students are partially colorblind,
Okay.
or some students just have a hard time, like if I'm like, oh, I'm red, and they're like, what are you talking about? So I just want to show you an easy way to find that if you sounds like I'm going crazy. So I'm just gonna take a picture of the inner part of my arm, and I'm gonna open that up in your camera's app, and I'm going to turn the saturation up of it like a bunch. And when you turn the saturation up, like you can see my red, and then you can also see where my veins are, there's blues. So if you're painting an area that's got veins, you might want to add some more blues to it. Yeah, but like oversaturating an image can help you figure out like, oh, that's the undertone I'm looking for.
Should I oversaturate my original drawing to get
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
life?
yeah, if you want to get it like true to life. Yeah, you
That's
totally
really
could.
cool.
Yeah.
I can see the yellow